Good afternoon. I'm Mike Thompson, and welcome to another show of a series of shows that air on RGCA TV 17 at 2 o'clock. One of them is an art show. Another one was health, and agriculture is the other one. This is the fourth one that is manufacturing and small business. And with me today, going across the way here, Mike Rowe, Director of Manufacturing Technology and Small Business Development Center. Ryan Mapes, Manager of the OSU Endeavor Center and Business Development Network Program Leader. And Brad Bapst over on the end, Regional Director of Small Business Development Center. Welcome to the show, guys. And some of these gentlemen will reoccur on the show, I think, in different capacities. So what are your roles? You're a director and you're a manager. What are you guys doing?
We'll let Ryan start with the overview of the Endeavor Center and what some of the things that we offer there. So.
Okay.
Well, as you mentioned, we're all three a part of the Business Development Network at the OSU South Centers. And with that, there's several different things that fall underneath that umbrella. For example, one is the Endeavor Center, which you'd mentioned, and that's a 27,000 square foot business incubator that we have located in Piketon. We've got roughly 27 office spaces, and then we've got about 5 or 6 office spaces for faculty or for staff in that building. Mm-hmm. Another program that we have within the Business Development Network is the Manufacturing and Technology Small Business Development Center, which Mike's the director of that. And I'll let Mike explain a little bit more on what that center does.
And that's different than housing people in the Endeavor Center.
That's correct.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and then Brad is the director of the Small Business Development Center, which covers a 10-county region here in Southern Ohio, as well as the MTSPDC. One unique thing about the Endeavor Center and its tenants, they have access to all these services anytime throughout the week. So
Probably just a walk down the hallway or something like that.
Yeah, it really is. Usually there's at least one of us in the office at any given time. And most of the time we work by appointments, but like I said, there's usually somebody there that can answer questions at any time.
So what kind of questions would they ask you guys?
On the small business development side, just generally speaking, we get a lot of financial questions.
Like taxes or?
Some taxes, some...
how to set up your business legally, possibly?
Yep, I had one of those yesterday. Mm-hmm. Helped a couple set up an LLC. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of the financial questions, access to capital. What's the bank going to want from me? What kind of loans are out there?
Right.
We also hear the grant word a lot, which there are no grants out there. So if anyone's listening,
yeah.
Because if there were, everybody would want one or have one. And then also just your general business startup and business planning.
What do you think about some of these commercials I've seen for sort of self-help legal paperwork where people can set up LLCs or whatever? Do you see that going wrong, where they maybe should have talked to someone to see which way is better to go with that?
Always good advice to have a second set of eyes on something. The state of Ohio, the Secretary of State's office has actually made it really user-friendly to set up an entity, LLC, corporations, whatever you think would be the best, and we can walk you through that process as well. But basically, it's you see these things on TV, but we can save you a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And also, I'll mention that the SBDC, and I don't want to steal Brad's thunder, but the SBDC is not unique to Piketon. Mm-hmm. It's a nationwide program.
Right.
It's found all across the state. So, you do see these commercials, but a simple phone call to your local SBDC could save you a few $100s here and there if you wanted to start a business.
So you're in charge of the Endeavor Center?
Correct.
Okay. How much of that is occupied?
Right now, we've got, did a walkthrough this morning, we've got 27 office spaces. And actually, we've only got 3 that are available.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 4. And 1 is in the process of being rented. So,
Are they all equal in size? Or?
no, we've got a couple different sizes. There's a 400 square foot office, which could house 3 to 4 folks comfortably, and then there's also smaller 200 square foot offices where generally you have a single or maybe 2 people working out of that office.
So how would I know, or what type of business would be a good fit, do you think, to fill up these extra spaces?
Really, we'll look at anything. Just to give you a perspective on what we've currently got, we've got a wealth management business in the Endeavor Center. And then also we've got a lot of contractors that were located close to the cleanup project at
In Piketon?
the uranium enrichment facility. So we're less than a mile. We get a lot of contractors
That need a home base.
that need a home base that don't necessarily don't want to go through clearance back and forth, and so that's a unique setup for us. But even before in the past, we've had a dentist in there.
Doing work in there?
Yeah, sure.
Huh.
So they operated in 2 offices. The first office was primarily the check-in and the waiting area, and then in the back they remodeled it to where they could work on patients. I think they had 2 or 3 chairs in there, and then that business or that dentist actually built a new facility in Chillicothe. So,
And that's the idea behind the incubator, is to bridge that gap of starting and having
Really
the
is.
funds to
Yeah.
get out on your own.
yeah, we do offer our office space is maybe a little lower priced than what the traditional market would be, but some of the other benefits, we offer access to a shared service room which has copier, fax, all your office supply, all the office supplies you would need.
Yeah. You have to bring your own secretary, right?
Well, you should or could, but we can, for a fee, we'll
Okay.
supply a phone answering service, not necessarily a traditional secretary role,
Okay.
but we will answer phones and mail packages and things like that. So,
Okay.
yep. So,
All right. So, what's your role?
My role is as the director of the MTSBDC, which is Manufacturing and Technology Small Business Development. I spend a lot of time working with basically the manufacturers in the region. Give you a little bit of my background. I've been with OSU going on my 3rd year now. Prior to that, I was actually a plant manager for a large corporation. It was a cabinet manufacturer.
And you, being micro, you're not part of Dirty Jobs.
I'm not, well, sometimes I've done some dirty jobs.
Okay.
But I can't really steal that guy's piece. But no, I'm not. But I did have had a long background in manufacturing, a lot of process improvement things that we utilized when we were there. Worked with a lot of different consulting groups during that time. I was in that role for approximately 20 years. This opportunity came up, so a lot of what I do is go out and work with manufacturers on process improvements, ways to look at things we can do to reduce costs, improve efficiencies, improve quality. And the thing that I always tell them is that we're looking at ways to improve it without asking them to spend any money up front. I know that's one thing that a lot of, especially small manufacturers, are looking at, because if we walk in and say, well, we can make this better, but you're going to have to spend this much money and buy this.
Yeah, you
piece
need to
of
buy a
equipment.
$100,000 production line.
Yeah, and that's not our goal. Our goal with this program is to offer the service at no cost, and then go in and look at ways of what they're currently doing and things that we can do, the simple things that we can do to make that process flow smoothly. Whether that's using a lot of the lean cultures, that are adapted in a lot of your automotive industries was the ones that started it. Now starting to actually roll into almost everything now is lean processes.
So how would that come into being, a lean process?
Well, a lot of the first things that we look at when we're looking at a lean culture or a lean organization, a lot of people's misconception of that is it's a way of the first thing they'll tell you is, well, we don't have any extra people, we're already lean, and it's not really employee based, it's more process based. What we mean by that is we're looking at taking out the unnecessary waste. When I always ask a company when I'm
So you're
working
not
with
that guy that comes in like on Office Space,
Yeah.
interviewing everybody and saying, what
What
are
do
you
you
doing?
do? No, no, not at all. What we look at is I always tell companies, and one of the analogies we try to use is if the customer's not willing to pay for what you're doing, then it's not adding value to what you're doing. And what I mean by that is you're over processing. We value stream map things, looking at each step that a product takes from order entry all the way to leaving the company. And you'll be surprised that most companies, and it's not a slam to anybody, but most companies are probably 70 to 80% non-value added activities. And that may just mean how many times do you, something simple like it may be how many times that order it comes in via internet and it goes to a paper copy and you make multiple copies. And a lot of those things that we look at, and even in shipping processes all the way through, you know, and material handling becomes a non-value added. Some of it's necessary, but it's not necessarily what the customer's willing to pay for. What I mean is that what you do from the beginning to the end of your process is the company's business, but they're not willing to pay more for that. So what we try to look at is, like I said, how can we take some of that unnecessary cost out, and it redistributes and opens up opportunities for resources and whatnot to do other things. One thing we use a lot that's real simple, it's employee based, is a 5S program. And 5S is just more of an organizational piece that you go into an area and you think about it in the analogy of we'll say your desk. I mean, there's a lot of things laying around maybe that you don't use every day, but you've got 4 or 5 items that you use on a daily basis.
Yeah, but
but
I'm a
you
hoarder.
save everything, and you think you might need it sometime. But the
Right.
thing is, it starts covering up the things that you're actually trying to work with, and before you know it, you're losing the things you need to use every day.
Right.
So when you go out on that shop floor, and companies have, people tend to hoard just like that. They keep things in their area and they think they might need this sometime or that sometime. And before you know it, when they're actually down there in the trenches working on a product, it takes them extra time to find what they actually need. They go to do a changeover to a different product and they can't find tools.
Can't
And
see
they-
the forest for the trees.
Yeah, they spend an extra 3 or 4 minutes trying to find it or more. And that becomes, cost. So what we do is we go in and look at ways that we can improve that. Do a lot of process observations, time studies, and then come back to the owners or the management team and say, here's some things that we've observed, here's some ideas that we have, here's some things that we may be able to do to help you.
Would some of it run down to logistics, where you don't want to store so much stuff on site and have things delivered on time?
Well,
Needed?
a lot of it is, we try to change companies to a more of a just-in-time philosophy, where you get what you need when you need it. I know that's difficult for small companies to do, but one of the things I always try to tell them is that you don't want to buy more than you need. You don't want to keep a lot of inventory at the beginning. You don't want to keep a lot of inventory at the end. You don't want to make, if it takes you 7 pieces to get 5, the customer's only going to pay for 5 because 5 is what they ordered. So that's kind of your loss. That's kind of your unnecessary cost that you're building into your process. And we try to figure out ways to find out what's causing them to create either rework product or have more inventory than necessary because they feel like their process isn't efficient enough. A lot of it becomes a comfort zone. Inventory hides inefficiencies. And as we work through these processes, we try to figure out ways to take that stuff out. And then, like I said, it's at no cost. Our piece is to go in and say, we're looking at ways to help you find value and profitability in your business without asking you to spend any upfront money.
So would you go into on the business side of things, and on the tax side of it, where you should invest in your business so much per year to balance some of that cost out that way on the tax side, or is that
No,
somewhere
that's
else?
more of, that gets more into
That's more of the core SBDC type services.
Okay.
yeah, yeah. All of the MTS BDC, basically, what we work with is down into the process, out on the floor, out in work. Looking at process improvements, employee trainings, things that are happening on the floor on a day-to-day basis that we can look at.
So what's a variety of businesses that you have helped?
We've helped a lot of wood industries in the area. We've helped actually some arts companies in this area out in the Gallia County. We've got a coffee producer that we've worked with, a plastics and producer and polymer. So several companies in this area. A lot of things we do is standard work instructions as well. We go out and we look at best practices and how can we apply those best practices across the board to help with employee trainings. So we do a lot of standard work instructions that are job specific. Help companies, like I said, with the same things as quality improvements, get to where things are becoming, so they can become ISO certified. A lot of standard ops. Help with safety programs, implementing safety programs on their shop floor, connecting them with anybody that can do the OSHA certifications, doing audits.
Does that have a result in lowering their insurance
Absolutely.
costs and everything?
Yeah. There's a lot of those things that goes towards helping them with the insurance cost, workers' comp costs. A lot of the other things we do is we can also help them with some of the HR pieces. A lot of small companies, really don't have HR programs or HR departments. We can help get them set up with employee trainings.
Like their secretary would just handle all the payroll and that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
but you got, trying to make sure that everything meets requirements when workers' comp comes in, or when you have an OSHA audit or something was to
There's a
happen.
step farther with employee manuals and
Yep,
handbooks. And, making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted ahead of time
Yeah.
before something does happen.
'Cause that's probably a specific skill that just the manager, and I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of managers are the guys who know how to do stuff, but didn't know the legalities and the ins
Yes,
and outs
exactly.
of things.
Right.
And we run into that daily with folks that come to us that want to start a business. They might be the best roofer, or the best bricklayer, or best hot dog chef, whatever.
Right,
But that's completely different than actually running a business.
right.
And that's kind of where we come in, and we're not there to teach them how to make hot dogs or put on a roof, but the behind-the-scenes stuff that people don't really think about.
And a lot of the things that I always work with companies on is typically the people that do the job know the best way to do the job. So I don't go into any organization and try to act like an expert that I know how to do that better than they do, because I don't. I spend a lot of time working with when I'm there, spend a lot of time working with the people that are currently doing the job to try to get as much information from them of ways to improve it, because they typically have good ideas to improve it. They just don't have the time or the resources
Sort of
to
like
actually put that together.
Sort of like the outside undercover boss.
Well, I guess if you want to put it that way. But I even when I was working in manufacturing, I felt like that the key to any organization and any organization being successful was utilizing the talent and the employees that they had. So one of the things that I'm really big on is if you use Kaizen, which is a Japanese term for a group group that works together on process improvements, you use a lot of that activity. So you use the resources and the employees that companies have, and get their information, get their ideas, get the struggles that they're having every day. They typically not only can tell you that, they also usually have a pretty good idea about how to make things better. It's just that they need somebody to try to help channel that into getting it to where it needs to go to kind of get those ideas,
Sort of like the mediator, where if they
Pretty much.
may have
it's
approached the boss before, it's like, just do it the way I said.
Exactly.
And then
Right.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, a lot of times, like I said, I hate to say small companies, but a lot of them, the person that owns the company is also the person that's out there doing a lot of the work, and they're wearing a lot of hats. So it becomes, they become very, very, their time is, they're struggling for the time. So we can come in and offer them that help and offer the ability to do some of the work and get some of the trainings in place and do some of the things that maybe they don't have the time to do. And then as along the way, teach them in a lot of the lean processes and how they actually work, and take them through a value stream mapping process. And all that is taking an actual, we don't even get real elaborate, you can, but a lot of times I just take a whiteboard and sticky notes and put up there and go through each step that somebody's doing and saying they're doing, and adding, looking at it and saying, is that one actually changing the part that we're doing? If it's not changing it, then can we look at ways to take some of those steps out?
Sometimes when you write it out, it becomes really obvious.
That's the thing. People are doing it and they don't realize they're doing it. So when we look at it that way, and then you step back and you take the group and you start figuring out ways to take some of that unnecessary stuff out.
Yeah. Okay. We've got about 9 minutes left, and we'll give Brad Babst a little bit of the floor. So go ahead. You got 10 minutes.
All right.
So what's your role in the small business development?
Well, I'm the director of the Small Business Development Center there at Piketon at the South Centers. And our Small Business Development Center is probably the biggest piece of our business team. It comprises the biggest funding piece, the most employees to what we do. We're kind of the folks that handle those kind of office type scenarios, whether it's planning for the business, putting a business plan together to start a business or to improve your business that's already out there, or even maybe the financial piece, looking at what those company expenses are, areas the company may be profitable in, areas they may not be profitable in. What do we need to do with this company, to move it forward?
So are you more the financial advisor?
We're kind of the planning and financial advisors for the business.
Okay.
One thing to keep in mind, our services with the Small Business Development Center, just like all of our other program services, are free of charge.
They're your tax dollars at work, right?
We are your tax dollars at work. Yep. That's good and bad. I mean, and for us, part of the only thing that we require of a business in return, if they work with us, is to kind of report the efforts that we put in to help. Kind of our time investment, and if that business does good things as a result of some of the services, like if we help somebody start their business, if we help somebody get a loan, if we help somebody create or retain jobs, that's really the information that we need back from that business, so we can kind of share those good stories with the people who help support us.
Right.
It's kind
So
of
you're hoping that
it's an accountability thing.
It is.
right,
It's
because you want to make sure that what the tax money that is spent for your services is overtaken or offset by what you are giving back to the community and the better businesses or the new businesses and new
That's right.
taxes that those bring.
Right, and it's all about jobs. It really boils down to jobs that we're creating in the communities. So,
And one thing I would add, anything that we talk about with our clients is confidential, other than the services being free of charge. And a unique thing of the South Centers, we kind of have a unique, and it's how we kind of term the business development network. It's probably the only one you'll find structured like ours is in Piketon throughout the state, where we have the Small Business Development Center, we have the MTSBDC. I mean, our offices are right beside each other. So if we have a client, and we also have the International Trade Assistance Center, which helps with exporting and importing.
Market research.
Those kinds of direct marketing and cooperative development centers. Those are all housed under,
And other
we'll spend more time on those on another show. But
now other places in the state are different, where they have these offices in different locations. Is that
could
what you're
be,
saying?
yeah. The SBDC might be at the Chamber of Commerce, the Manufacturing and Technology. SBDC might be at the Economic Development Agency.
and it might be 2 or 3 counties away
It could
from
be.
where the coverage
Right.
area is.
So all of ours are housed under one roof, which makes it really, it's a unique experience for our clients, and it's very helpful for us.
Seems like it makes sense.
It does.
Actually.
It does.
Yeah. And the state overall is kind of working more and more toward trying to model a lot of other centers around the state to operate kind of like we do with the shared services and kind of a unified delivery model, kind of a one-stop shop for assistance. No matter what your business needs are, we've got a person for that. You know, we've got an expert in that area.
And like we tell companies, if we don't have the resource or we don't have the skill set to give you what you need, we will go out and do what we can to find that resource or that skill set for them.
Right.
So, you know, we help them out in,
Right.
in any way that
We're
that we can help
connected
them.
to the Ohio State University. We're connected to Rio Grande. So those are two pretty good cards to have in your
Right.
pocket as well.
Yeah, we kind of call ourselves dot connectors.
Yeah.
You know, we're not it. You know, maybe somebody on our team doesn't know the answer to your question with your business, but we've got such a wide network around the entire region and you know, through the power of OSU with the whole state,
Right.
that, you know, we can find your answer for you. And as a business owner, it's very confusing when you go into the world of government type of programs. And, you know, already today we've talked about a lot of different acronyms. That's just the tip of the iceberg with the acronyms that
Oh,
are in
yeah.
the business assistance network that's out there across the state. And we kind of know those acronyms, so we can kind of help a client that we work with quickly through that process and eliminate all the dead-end roads and get them straight to the resources they need.
Now, we're talking about businesses and advice and everything. I was just curious, have you guys had or run businesses?
Yeah.
Of your own?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I've got a agricultural business that I do also. Been involved in it for, I'm 43 years old, for 43 years.
Yeah.
You know, kind of grew up on the farm.
Right.
But yeah, I've learned a lot through that, you know, kind of an applied thing. And then, you know, a lot of practical experiences that I've come up with myself that I've learned the hard way
Right.
that I can pass that information on to people that I work with. You know, especially, you know, one of the things in agriculture that you learn to manage is your cash flow. Because, you know, if you're farming, you know, in the spring,
that's-
you have a huge expenditure
Yeah.
of finances for, you know, planting your crops in the field. And then you don't really see any returns for about 6 months until you market that crop.
Yeah.
But
You
how
got
do
bills to
manage
pay in
that
between
big,
that.
Yeah, you have bills to pay, and how do you manage that big financial gap? And that's no different than a lot of companies, you know, that are out there in the world today, especially manufacturing companies. They buy a lot of raw materials.
Yep.
They spend a lot of time, you know, manipulating those materials into a finished good, and then they sell the good, and then sometimes they don't get paid for 90 days.
Oh,
You
right.
know, after that good goes out the door. So, you know, there's a lot of applied things that are across the board, no matter what the industry is.
Right.
Kind of like Brad, my family, I grew up in the construction industry.
Okay.
Or family had construction businesses, and so I've been around that since I was old enough to walk. And then as well, I do a little construction and remodeling in the evenings, weekends myself. So same thing. You come across.
You kind of know the struggle
you
firsthand.
know the struggles, you
Right.
see them, you live them. So it's a little easier to help the client when you can relate to your own experiences when you're talking with them.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then also spent some time as a commercial lender at a local community bank, so that gives you a wide variety of
Right.
you know, viewing business plans and financials and whatnot. So
Right. You know that puzzled
It's
look
not
that the
just-
banker looks at these guys.
exactly, it's
Right.
not only their problem. They're not the first people that have come across that problem before.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay, so this is the introductory show. What can we expect from shows down the road from here? What are we going to talk about?
Well, I know we talked previously when we discussed coming and doing these shows. Part of it is going to be some things that we can do, trainings, some specific trainings for manufacturing, looking at some of the lean processes. Like we'll say we go over maybe one show, maybe a 5S training, how you actually implement a 5S, what it would look like before and afters with an organization, so that people can get that visual of what that actually does and how it can benefit them, and how they could see added cost reductions by implementing that. And I think some of the other things are talking about maybe some international trade pieces of how companies can get started in that if they're not currently doing it, and what we can do to offer them help. And that
The Cooperative Development
Yep.
Center, we'd like to get them on board to tell a little about their program, direct marketing program at the South Centers, farmers markets. So we got some good things that we can bring
Sounds like if you're a business person, this might be a good thing to tune into. So we'll be here next month at 2 o'clock. We'll see you then. Thanks for watching.